What's a lie you've told that has gotten ridiculously out of hand? Told my boss I'm Jewish, so I can have weekends off. I now eat kosher at work and can't order takeout. Worked with a woman for the past 4 years. Every day says hi Owen and asks about my day. It's not my name or even close to my name and I just never corrected her, and now it's too late. When I was about 16 I had a friend whose dad had a flat in London. One weekend a group of us stayed there and went out on a Saturday night and ended up in her brother's university's student union bar. The university was music focused because we were underage and drunk. When talking to people we would lie about being uni students and which course we were on. I got talking to a guy, and when he asked me what I was studying I told him what I had been telling everyone else all night: violin. The guy says, me too. Which tutor do you have? Duck. I say, oh, you know, the top level one. Clearly lying. He says, that's weird. I'm in the highest level group and I haven't seen you before. I then proceed to tell him how I'm in a secret group that is even higher that not everyone knows about. He clearly doesn't believe me and pulls his friend over who also studies violin. Not me, but a server buddy of mine told me a story once about how he took the first table of the night in a super thick southern accent. He was in theater, so it was actually really convincing. The only problem is the people at the next table overheard him and he had to serve them next. Long story short, this kept up and he had to talk to every single table over an 8-hour shift in a southern accent. A friend in middle school pretended to be colorblind. Carried the light clean through high school. Pretty impressive dedication really. Not me, but I had a classmate in high school tell a teacher his mom texted him that his dad died just to get out of a test. Boy did that blow up in his face. Oh my god, perfect thread for me. I bought a fleshlight when I was 15. What can I say? I was a horny ass teen, and after discovering them online, I knew I needed one. 2 small problems. 1, I'm underage. You need to be 18 to buy one. But I wasn't too worried about that. 2 is I didn't have a job. Any money I got was from my parents and I maybe had like $40 in my bank account. At the time a singular flashlight was $80 I think. Plus shipping brought it to over 100. I forget how much it was in total. But since I'm in Canada, cross-border fees raise the cost even more. Basically I sold a bunch of my video games to raise the proper amount, and since I was 15 and didn't have a credit card to process the payment, my plan was to get a money order since Flashlight accepted them and to pay for it by debit, and my bank sent bank statements to my house once every month. So my plan was to get to that bank statement before my parents did. I usually got it before them anyways, since I always checked the mail. As long as they didn't see it, then everything would go off without a hitch. Well, something always goes wrong, right? I go to the post office, place my money order, tell the lovely older ladies behind the post office counter that I'm buying an anniversary gift for my parents as a cover up. They think it's lovely. Perfect. I leave. Flashlight received my money order and dispatched my shipment. Woo, it's all getting real now. All that's left is to check the mail every day and hide my bank statement from my parents and get my shipment while they're at work. I check the mail every day. No bank statement. Well, I didn't check the mail one day, and wouldn't you know it, that's the day my bank statement came in the mail, and yeah, my parents got to my bank statement before me. So my parents saw I had a $100+ transaction at the local pharmacy post office and asked me that night what that was for. I didn't prepare any sort of lie in case they saw my bank statement, since I was so sure I'd get to it before they did. So on the spot the only lie that made sense was, oh, I bought $15 worth of candy at the store. Maybe the cashier hid one twice by accident and it came out to $115. Whatever. I don't care. God, I was a ducking idiot laughing my freaking butt off. Long story short, my parents basically went on a CSI investigation. My dad called the store, asked to speak to the manager and the ladies who processed my payment and scammed my son. They traced back the payments and saw the one in question. The manager spoke to the ladies and they said they didn't do anything wrong, which they obviously didn't. My parents asked me if I was telling the truth before proceeding further. I still stuck to my original story since I wasn't about to tell them I bought a ducking sex toy and I begged them to drop it in the chillest way. Nope. My dad continued to pursue whatever happened, and it got to the point that my dad was going to go meet with the manager and the post office ladies, and basically these ladies were at risk of getting fired. I guess my dad and the manager of the store believed me. Finally, after hearing they could lose their job, I fessed up and told my parents I bought a microphone repair kit for my Nintendo DS, laughing my freaking butt off, but didn't want to tell them since they'd tell me I was wasting my money. They finally dropped it, but as it turns out, they did actually find out what I bought, so that was embarrassing. Too long didn't read almost got 2 women fired from the post office to cover up the fact that I bought a fleshlight. That I was American. I didn't outright say it, but when I first came I was hanging out with people, and I didn't feel like it was necessary to mention that I came from Canada. It led to me not knowing some American culture and making me look dumb half the time cause I didn't know some reference. Someone else said they were related to me as a joke around 2004 and unbeknownst to me continued to say that. So for years I've had people ask me about my brother Josh, even though I actually haven't seen him in very long time. I usually just ad-lib a general response rather than making him feel silly, but I'm pretty over it. I politely pretended to remember my dentist when she said she'd known me and my family as a child. Kept up with it for several sessions, and then she asks about family members I don't have, and I realize she's got the wrong person. But because I've pretended I know her, I've had to keep it up. It's been 6 years and I'm too awkward to admit to it, or find a new dentist at this point. Not as bad, but after I found some foreign souvenirs of mine out of place, I told my nephew I have a camera in my room, so that he'll stay out of it. He keeps asking about it, so I continuously have to add to it, so there's a camera in my room that I can spy through on my phone, and alerts me anytime he comes in. Said camera is so tiny, no one can see it, and is placed in a convenient nail in my wall. In junior school I lied that I had a bionic foot. Surprisingly this went on for a very long time. The way I kept it real was for sport I would always get changed separate from everyone, and I would avoid swimming carnivals. Eventually I forgot about the lie, and I got changed with everyone else in the change rooms for school and they somehow remembered it. Let's just say I got attacked literally the whole day. Fun days. When I met my college friends at 17, I told them that my first kiss was at 15, in order to hide my embarrassment at never having kissed anyone. One time they asked for the story, so I quickly made up something about a random guy I used to work with who I made out with at a party. Although this wasn't my intent, I guess something about the way I told the story made my friends, who to be fair were pretty sheltered people at the time, think I was fairly promiscuous. From this, they gathered that I spent my time during the summers frequently hooking up with strangers. I ended becoming close friends with these girls. But unfortunately due to this, they all thought of me as the slutty one of our group for a couple years, until they finally realized they'd only seen me date a handful of people. I took a co-worker's hot pocket from the work refrigerator. I was 19. When he flipped and looked for the thief, I lied and said I was a vegetarian. I remained a vegetarian for 3 years to cover the lie. In a moment of sleep deprivation, and in response to how does the Easter Bunny get in our house, I innocently told my kids the Easter Bunny handed me their Easter baskets. Genius. This started a debate that came up every Easter as to whether the Easter Bunny was a human-sized rabbit or some magical being wearing a rabbit costume, and I had to mediate, because I was the only one who had seen it. God, I'm an idiot sometimes. On my first day at work, someone offered to make me a cup of coffee and they asked if it was how I liked it. I responded perfect, thanks, which is considered to be typical British behavior. However, this was in fact not the perfect cup of coffee, not a perfect cup of coffee at all. Now I don't have the guts to turn to Steve and degrade his coffee making skills, and instead I have to suffer the consequences every single day and drink his rather shitty coffee. It's been over a year and I'm still living this lie. I don't know how much longer I can cope with this. Duck you, Steve. Pretended that my nephew was my son to a colleague. It's been 4 years and little Timmy is moving away to university. When I was 7, 8 I grabbed a naked wire at a wedding and got electrocuted. I'm 19 now and still the scar remains on my hand. I straight showed my parents about my hand cause it looked cool. They cried and asked me what happened. I said a kid pushed me. My cousin was like super pissed and was like, was it that kid? I mumbled yeah. Apparently, he went to hit the kid. I still feel like shit about it. I really feel personally victimized by this question. There was this lady at work that I could not stand to be around. I tried really hard to just put up with it, but she would say some really mean stuff. I know it's because she grew up with a very critical mother, but I just could not handle it. My strategy was to limit my time around her. As long as I didn't spend too much time around her I could remain pleasant. This particular year she was planning the work Christmas party. She told me that she had nominated me for the committee and I was voted in without being present. My brain was moving so quickly I feel like I just blurted out a somehow reasonable lie. I told her that I was Jewish and I didn't feel comfortable 1. Planning the Christmas party or 2. Attending the Christmas party. I thought I was golden. I live in a place that doesn't have massive Jewish community, so I figured if she ever asked a question I could just do my best to lie my way out of it. Turns out she took this as her personal mission to promote inclusivity. The Christmas party was turned into a holiday party and pork products were banned. Totally devastated as now I had to go, and now I was doubly miserable without bacon. She told everyone at work that I was Jewish and to respect that. She even got donuts and made them hide the bacon maple bars to not offend me. I have left that job, but my Jewish past still follows me. I've given up and just identify as Jewish now. My apologies to the Jewish community. Early in my relationship, I told my mother-in-law I liked crab legs. So next time she saw me she made some. But I meant king crab legs, and she got some other kind that were very small and took so long to eat because it was so much work to get the meat out and there was hardly any meat and it wasn't very tasty anyway. But I could not tell her I didn't like them because at first I didn't want to be rude and later it had been so long that it would just be really weird. I had missed my chance to clarify. For 15 years she made their terrible crab legs almost every time I saw her, and always on occasions like my birthday. We would all have to settle in with an arsenal of tools to desperately make a meal out of these terrible crab legs. I was always so hungry there. Finally one day I told my husband I couldn't deal with this torture anymore, so he told her my tastes had changed. My crab legs nightmare was over. Now she makes other pretty bad food, but at least it doesn't require an hour of manual labor to eat. During my first year in college, one of my roommates had a girl over, and we were chatting a bit when the girl asked me about my ethnicity, for no particular reason. And assuming that I would most likely never see this person again, I answered that I was Samoan inspired, as I recall, by the character Dr. Gonzo from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The conversation moved on, and I'd forgot about it. Fast forward a few years, and another one of my roommates has a job with the US Census, and is having us all fill out our census forms. I'm wondering aloud which ethnicity to mark for myself when a large group of my friends answer American Samoan. Of course, that girl I'd made the original joke not even really a joke to had become part of my inner circle of friends, and had told damn near everyone I know that I was Samoan. Thus began a long inside joke of me telling increasingly elaborate stories about my supposed Samoan heritage. I had a whole backstory about how my parents met, about what it was like where I was born, and more. I would speak a few words in deliberately preposterous fake Samoan, which was obviously just a direct quote from Jabba the Hutt with the name Han Solo swapped out for name of the real Samoan village of Silasalo. I once was even able to honor a request to sing a song in Samoan. which I did by crooning out my poor phonetic recollection of a song I know that is in Welsh, which I'm fairly confident bore no resemblance to actual Samoan musical language. I went to a college that was rather famous for being a smarty pants school, so my favorite part was how rarely someone called men out on this preposterous story. Indeed, fairly often, I would tell a detailed and ridiculous story about life in Samoa, and the person I was talking to, not wanting to look ignorant, would say, you know, I was just reading about that. I got called out maybe one time in 10. Fast forward several more years, I've graduated and started work in a different city and don't even live in the same state as any of my close friends from college. I've just started dating this incredible young woman who I met through a work event. It turns out that we have a friend in common, someone I knew from a summer internship I completed just after graduating. This young woman ends up sharing an office with this old friend of mine and starts to ask him about me, and that's how a quickly forgotten, not even funny joke I made to a stranger during my freshman year caused my wife to genuinely believe that I'm an ethnicity I clearly am not for about the first 6 months of our relationship. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,